Hello everyone, I'm back for another update here. I am exploring yet another trail here that I've really never been up before. And as you can see, there's still plenty of snow. I was trying to figure out where the trail went from here, whether it went that way or up that way. Really hard to tell, or even that way. Because at this point, it just seems like it fizzles out kind of. But followed it this far. I'm probably going to have to turn back anyway because it's getting very late in the afternoon. So I'm going to start retracing my steps here. As you can see, not much in the way of animal tracks in this particular spot, a few here and there. So this makes 12 straight days of snow on the ground here. And earlier I walked over on the beaver pond. It was frozen enough to walk on. And I'm sure after the next several days it will definitely be solidified even more. But today is kind of mild. Well up in the 40s today. Or just under 10°C temperature wise. But there's a lot of snow on the ground and it's likely going to survive this brief warm spell. So what I'm going to talk about is, again, the cold pattern is going to continue till the end of the month, January. This is third week of January, going into third week, 2025, and overall the month has been incredibly cold for most people. And again, what makes this year so different than the last three? For one, again, the Tonga eruption, the water vapor is diminishing in the upper atmosphere, so we're losing more heat. The second reason is we're coming out of a solar max that's weaker than average. Although they really hyped it up. Last check the sunspot number, it's barely over 100, so it's starting to wane. I mean, there may be another burst of activity coming. It looked like there was some more regions on the sun about to rotate around to face Earth. Cosmic ray count is hanging around -6 now. It was in the double digits minus a few months back, but it's starting to come back up. So we got some natural factors working toward favoring a colder pattern this winter. MJO manipulation, I've been talking about that. Has it reached a backfire point where it's not going to work anymore? Possibly. Although I do see a lot of convection. Seems like now they're trying to get to phase 3/4 zone because there may still be some heat in that area in the water enough. But the warmer phases of the MJO, they were having a really hard time now keeping the convection going, and it's firing up in other areas. Because a lot of the heat, you're talking 3 straight years of MJO being stuck in these areas, very likely due to manipulation. Doesn't happen that way naturally. That combined with the Tonga eruption water vapor made the last 3 winters very, very mild. But it appears that is ending. It may be ending for quite some time. Because if the heat has been taken out of the water in these areas, And we're coming out of a solar max and sun that replenishes the heat in the oceans, the heat budget, storage, whatever you want to call it. And the oceans have still had a lot of stored up heat from 70 years of high solar activity, which is why they're able to manipulate the convection, the MJO, hurricanes. They're feeding off this 70 years of stored up heat in the oceans that normally, as I've said in the past, would act as a buffer to ward off global cooling from a solar decrease of activity. You might have a few decades normally where that would be warded off, but because so much manipulation has been going on, I suspect that a lot of that stored up heat has already been taken up out of the water through increased enhanced convection in different areas of the planet. So the MJO, from this point on, it may be a long time before it goes into the warmer phases again, if this is true, if it is. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know if the heat content in the oceans has been used up in these areas or not, but if it has been, we're going into a solar minimum in an 11-year cycle. It could be a decade or longer before the MJO goes into a warmer phase for very long. It could be a decade or longer, we're talking. Meaning we could be at that point where things are going to fall off the cliff, temperature-wise. I can't say for sure we've reached that point. It's only been a month now that the MJO has been not going into the warmer phases consistently. And I know that there is some convection in the phase 3/4 zone going on, that they're trying to get this pattern broken up. It's obvious. But it's highly unlikely they're going to be able to get it simultaneously in 4, 5, and 6 like they have the past 3 winters. That's highly unlikely. They may be able to get it into phase 4 or one of the phases, but it's highly unlikely they're going to get it into all 3 anymore from what I've been observing. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking perhaps things might have reached a turning point where it's going to be very hard to get the MJO into the warmer phases anymore after this winter. Like, this could go on for a long time. We're really getting winters like what we're seeing now. Time will tell. But to go more into specifics, we're talking about a Gulf Coast snowstorm, something that has not been seen quite some time. It's not unprecedented, though. It has happened in times past. One time that comes to my mind is 1973, where I never forget on the news how Georgia got 8 inches of snow, and New York City that winter received only 2 inches the whole winter, and Georgia got 8 inches. I'll never forget that. And much of the Gulf Coast, even down at Galveston, got snow that winter that accumulated a couple of inches, I think. I remember them saying snow has whitened the palm trees in Galveston, I think it was. It was a big headline on the news. But there was an even bigger storm. Back in 1895, 30 inches of snow fell in southern Louisiana in 1895. It just goes to show that area can get a big snowstorm. And I feel right now that they're really underplaying the potential of this system next week. I think 1 to 2 inches. The official forecast. under the right condition, these storms, these systems with Arctic air in place like it's going to be, could drop feet of snow. And we're not talking inches. 1895, 30 inches of snow in southern Louisiana fell. 3 inches in, I think it was Tallahassee. So we got to go all the way back to 1895 to find a similar weather scenario. Hard to believe 30 inches of snow could fall there, but it's in recorded history. It was recorded. They are definitely grossly underestimating. This ties in with the warning I gave to not be complacent about things. Be prepared for severe winter weather at all times. Do not trust the forecast if they say 1 to 2 inches of snow. Do not entirely trust it. Always prepare for the possibility of it being much worse. They predicted here no more than 2 inches of snow 12 days ago for this system. We got a lot more than 2 inches here. Be prepared at all times for potential power outages, for potential disruption due to heavy snowfall that times may not be predicted. I feel that they're underplaying the potential of this system next week, to how much havoc it could wreak when you got a record-breaking, near record-breaking Arctic air mass feeding into a ton of moisture. They're only saying 1 to 2 inches of snow right now. And even 1 to 2 inches down that way would wreak havoc. But there's times in the past when much more snow has fallen in those regions. They're not immune from severe winter weather, even in Louisiana. And there's a shot that some of these places could see a foot of snow that have not seen that much snow since 1895. This could be potentially the biggest snowstorm since 1895. I'm not saying it's definitely going to be, but it has the potential because we have the Arctic air in that's going to be in place, and we have the moisture. A ton of moisture streaming in off the Pacific. Of course, Mexico, and then into the Gulf of Mexico. It's going to feed into this system. Then we got another system that could put a dent, at least, in the snow drought for the Northeast, such as New York City, and although now they're trying to say it's going to be mostly rain there, latest I've heard. We'll see. And this brings to memory 1978, when I was growing up in New York, and how much they botched the forecasts that winter. They didn't even get hardly a single storm right in their forecast. They were always way off one way or the other. I know supposedly weather forecasting has improved since then. Supposedly it has. They have models now, whereas back then, it brings back memories of January 1978 when we had 5 weather systems. New Year's night we got several inches of snow that stayed on the ground the whole first week of January. Then we got a rainstorm, followed by a surprise snow squall at the end that they didn't predict. We got a quick inch. And then we had the real mayhem in the third week of January, 3 winter storms. They did not get a single one of those storms correct. On the first one, they were saying snow, a couple of inches changing to rain. Well, it did change to rain, but it was freezing rain. We got an ice storm. They were not predicting an ice storm. we got a severe ice storm. Then the second storm moved through. They were saying we were going to get 8 inches of snow, and in that case, we got about an inch. It turned over to rain, and that was it. So they're saying we're going to get all that snow, and we didn't get hardly anything. That was the second. And the third one was the biggest botch up of all, where they were predicting 1 to 3 inches of snow. It came in on a Friday night, I think it was, predicting 1 to 3 inches of snow. With a flash flood watch put out for heavy rain, because the snow was supposed to change over to heavy rain. I went to bed that night. It was snowing heavily. When I went to bed, I waited to hear the gutters gushing water from heavy rain. Never heard it. I woke up at 4 a.m. I didn't hear anything but silence outside. I looked out, it was a whiteout. We ended up with 15 inches of snow. They're only predicting 1 to 3 inches. Now, the blizzard in February, they did get correct, because that was like a no-brainer weather setup. That was a no-brainer. That was very easy to predict. Everybody got that right. But as I say, the lesson here is, yeah, weather forecasting has improved supposedly since then, but it's not foolproof. And there's situations where they could be saying an inch of snow and you get a lot more. And there's situations where they might say you're going to get a lot and don't end up with anything as well. It can go either way. It still can go either way. But my feeling on this system that's next week, they're definitely underestimating the potential of this system. Definitely underestimating it. We have not seen a setup like this synoptically since 1895. I mean, 1973 might have come close. But we've got Arctic air crashing into tons of moisture. Now, what about beyond that? There's yet another system possible beyond Wednesday after that. And then the cold air is supposed to recede end of next week, at least temporarily. I emphasize temporarily. Because the MJO, I feel, is going to have trouble getting into warmer phases for very long. I feel that it's possible, I'm not saying definitely, that we've reached a turning point where the heat has been mostly used up. They're not going to be able to manipulate the MJO anymore much. And it's like a rubber band effect. It's going to catapult things in the opposite direction. We're going to end up with some humongous amounts of snow in the next few winters. And with the new president taking office, who feels that what a backdrop for the weather that day, the second coldest inauguration on record after Reagan. But 1985 was, a lot of people talk about how cold the 80s were and everything. 1985, January was record cold, but February was near record warm. It made up for it. December 1984 was very warm. So it wasn't like the whole winter was like that. A lot of people around here talk about the 80s being snowy. I know 1980, Virginia Beach got a lot of snow that winter. But up north, Lake Placid was crying for snow during the Olympics. They had hardly any snow up there. That same winter, because we were in a solar max 1980, all the storms took a west-east track, and Virginia Beach happened to be just in the right spot to catch it all. And that was toward the end of the winter. 79 to 80 overall winter was a washout. And we had one cold period, the end of February, early March, where Virginia Beach got all that snow, but most of that winter was warm. And then 89, they got snow. And again, up north, we had hardly any snow. I was living in New Hampshire that year, and snowfall was way below average up there. And December of 89, I know people talk about that being cold. Well, the rest of the winter was a blowtorch. Yeah, it was cold in December, but spring basically came after January 1st. There was no more winter. The sky has a bright glow up there. Look at that. So I'm working my way down, as it is still pretty icy. I'm just basically taking it one step at a time down here to get back down off this hill or mountain. So yeah, again, so this winter, yeah, there is probably going to be a thaw beginning of February. But I don't feel at this point that the warmth is going to last all of February, or that winter is going to be over. It is likely going to go into March. So we shall see. I will be following this winter storm next week very closely. Again, do not underestimate the potential of this storm to dump heavy amounts of snow in places that have not seen it. Very long time. I mean, yeah, they could come out with an inch or two. It's possible, but what I'm saying is the storm has a lot of potential to dump more than that in these regions. A lot of potential. So that's going to be it. I'll be back soon. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful winter wonderland. Again, we're on day 12 of continuous snow cover here. And I do not think it's going to melt in 24 hours. Because that's when the cold air is going to hit here tomorrow evening. So we will likely, perhaps, have continuous snow cover through the month of January. So that's going to be it. I'll be back soon.